Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague.
And I'm Corey Scott.
For all info on this show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com.
On ElseNerds, we have a tendency to speak about things that you may not have read, seen, watched, whatever yet. So if you're worried about spoilers, please know that we are going to spoil things very, very much. We also will swear. Usually that will offend some people. Today we're going to be offending our very special guest.
Yes, our very special guest is JackieHern from the Diamond Club, the puppet lady of Night Attack. I'm trying to come up with other names and I can't think of anything else. Jackie, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. What an honor that you guys invited me on the show. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to figuring out what you think an honor is, because this ain't it.
Hey, I don't need much in this world, but no, I'm kidding. No, but
we're gonna challenge that for you.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're gonna get right into our news, and the first news story is Ben Affleck standalone Batman film will be titled simply The Batman.
Batman.
This is a smart choice. This is a smart choice, as opposed to, especially, I don't know if these were actual from the article in here, if these were actually proposed titles, but if they went with those, I'd have just been like, nope, I'm out. Fuck you guys, I'm out. But like, what was it? One of them was Batman v Deadshot or Deathstroke. Sorry, I forgot which character was being in there. And it's like, yeah, why? But The Batman sounds good.
The Batman was,
I could see them.
Was one of the cartoon series titles, and yeah. I don't remember it doing very well or hanging around very long, but that's also at a point in time where they were canceling every cartoon after about a season or two just because, fuck it, girls don't buy toys.
Yeah.
That was the excuse that DC made for canceling several cartoons, is they were like, but girls don't buy the toys, so why should we continue to promote Young Justice even though it's got great viewership? And the fact that half of that viewership happens to be girls. Oh, I'm sorry, DC. I kind of thought that girls were on equal standing as guys, but, you know, fuck you.
I'm sorry. I had to back away for a moment just to say I don't quite agree with that. Here's Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see, what else do I have? Batman in here. I have Batman. Here's Batman. Here's the Batman. There you go. Girls buy.
Well, I'm currently wearing.
Actually, granted, I did buy these for a puppet video on the SuperFriends, but you know, it's nice.
And you know what? It doesn't matter why you bought it. The thing is that you buy it. You're a consumer, same as anybody else. Your money should be as good as anybody else's. And I just don't get the mentality. When I was a kid in the 70s in Detroit, my cousin had a Linda Carter Wonder Woman doll, and I had all the like Mego superheroes, but anytime I was over at her house, I'm like, you got the Wonder Woman doll, and it's like Linda Carter from the TV series. That's freaking awesome to me. And she had no qualms about the fact that this was a superhero that she was playing with. It was one of her dolls, and she played with it as a superhero. It sucked that there weren't enough other figures to go with it to be able to do the same kind of stories and stuff that I would do with my Mego dolls. But we are at full absolute point of like, women are geeks. Women like the same shit that you've been saying that only men like for years. Fucking figure it out. And I just don't get why. Well, we're way off topic. I'm already going off somewhere. So the Batman.
No. You're still fairly on topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was going to add, this actually happened in my store this week. That a mom of 3 daughters came in, and they all had DC superhero girl toys, and because the mom named one of the daughters is named Mary Jane, another one is named Guinevere, and I forget the third one, but it wasn't exactly a nerdy name that I recognized. But I'm like, that is so cool. And they were looking for a Spider-Girl toy, and I'm like, and they're like, yeah, May Parker. I'm like, wait, what? Holy cow.
Mayday Parker.
I love you guys. Yeah.
That is super awesome. So I think I've told this story in one of the last incarnations of the show. Rest in peace. What else is on? And that was about the mother who came into the comic store when I was working there and was looking for Wonder Woman stuff for her son, because her son was really into Wonder Woman. And I was just so upset that there wasn't age appropriate stuff of Wonder Woman in general, like for a 9 to 12-year-old kid. There just isn't anything there. But let alone that's right there as a point, is that it's not always, female figures aren't just purchased by females, and male figures aren't just purchased by boys. It runs the gamut. You get to enjoy both. And there are boys who like these female characters. When I was a kid, one of my favorite things with I'm a little weird, but my Mego superheroes was that the clothes could come off. And so I would take the Robin outfit and put it on Batgirl, because even back then I thought Batgirl should be Robin. I just thought she was badass. I thought that that's the way it should be. And this is years before. Yeah, I know. Thank you. That I'm not quite
that's
that.
Not where I thought that was going.
I would put Batman's costume on Superman, because then it would be like Bruce Wayne walking around without the cowl on. But yeah, yes, it's a dress up thing. Boys would like to be able to do those things as well. So having the removable outfits and being able to trade them out, you kind of get to create your own superheroes, or you create your own scenarios. And I think that that's a big part of imagination building. That's a big part of what makes you want to be a storyteller growing up. Why do we not feed into that more? And I was listening to an episode of the 90s Percentile today where they're talking about 90s toys. And there was some perception that Dan had that was, kids today don't really play with toys as much. They play with apps. And I'm like, that's okay, as long as the apps are feeding the same forms of this creativity. And if you're talking about something like Minecraft is obviously, it's the Legos of tomorrow. I think what it's missing is that tactile response, that touching. And that is probably something that we'll get more of in virtual reality. But there's something very different about having an app where all the creativity is programmed out for you versus having limitless things that you can do. Because, like, here's my G.I. Joes. There's a whole backyard that is a whole scenario that I can make for them to go and fight in. It was Army guys, it was G.I. Joes, it was everything else. And now there's this whole other world. I would take the eggs that were the basically what my mom's pantyhose would come in, and I would do cool shit with those eggs. Like, they were either, this is a spaceship from Mork, or this is something that can be like used for storage for my other characters. All the stuff around your house is a possibility of a toy. It's like a cat finding a box, and you bought this expensive thing for your cat, and the cat's like, fuck you, I want the box. That's all okay. Kids need to have that experience. Kids need to be able to feed their imaginations, because that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we make this shit for tomorrow for the kids of the next generation.
Yes. I would have something smart to say about that, but right now the only thing I could think of is to say, hey, to JF Dubois, the writer who just got a movie deal.
Option, which is huge.
Yes, he got a movie option. That's so freaking cool and all that. But no, like the toy thing, I see that, like, that people go more in Minecraft. And also, another side note, if people think I abuse my mod powers right now on the server I play on, wait until Minecraft gets in virtual reality, because I am not flying ever again. I will just be in there flying, and they'll be like, why is Craig derping around? Oh, he's in VR right now. Just leave him alone.
I love this discussion about the toys. You're absolutely right. And as you were talking, I was being very distracting. If you could look at my little corner, because I happened to find a shark on my desk.
Shark repellent.
I took Batman, and he's riding the shark. So that's a whole nother universe of Batman underwater. No, but you're right that I mean, yes, kids can use apps, but and Minecraft is kind of the exception there. But, like, does that mean that these kids are going to learn coding so quickly that they're going to be able to create the universe in their minds that we did when we were kids and we played? So no. I mean, you want to encourage the openness as much as possible. And I think that's kind of why, as a very grown adult woman, I'm still playing with toys and with puppets and with things. Actually, I could find a Supergirl toy. And I needed one for a puppet video, so I took a Barbie doll, took off all of her clothes, and then I created a Supergirl costume for her to put her in my video.
Oh, nice.
Oh, sure, but when I do it, no, I mean, and that's a good point too. Is learning coding, which is something that we're trying to encourage, is great, and having the ability to do that stuff is obviously that's going to be where a lot of the careers of tomorrow are coming from. Engineers are where a lot of the careers of tomorrow are going to come from. But with both of those things, you can't just go through the motions without having the imagination of creating something from those foundations. So if you're going to code, what are you going to code to make? If you've never played a video game or you've never seen something and imagined like, oh, I want to build this, I want to make this world, I want to do something like as vast as Lord of the Rings and make that in a film, or I want to make something like a Pixar movie, and you can code stuff, but if you don't have that final, like, here's where this is going to lead to, then it doesn't do you any good. You know, it's like a machine that doesn't know what it's going to build. It just sits there and rots because no one gives it something to actually make. That's a Pixar movie in itself, I think. I'm really excited that at this point in time, like we're going to talk a little about in a little bit, New York Comic Con was this weekend, that it is such a prevalent thing now. And that geek history has embraced these things. I wish that we weren't so self-hating still. I wish it still wasn't so elitist at times, but it's still pretty magical when you see all these people that are going there and they're in costume and they're creating not only the characters that they led from the comics, but they're creating new versions or mashups or whatever. Sometimes they're creating their brand new own superheroes or ideas. And I think that is just brilliant. And it's so fantastic because we value that now. We celebrate that now. And none of this has anything to do with Batman. But whatever.
To one quick point before I switch us a little bit here. One of the things I saw from New York City Comic Con was Riri Williams cosplays. This is a character who hasn't really been.
Yeah.
She's been a backstory in Iron Man. She hasn't even really fully debuted in her armor yet, and people are already doing cosplays.
And not only that.
Cool.
It is really fucking cool. And not only that, but I mean, the fact that the character exists. Jackie, I don't know if you're familiar with Riri Williams, but she was created by Brian Michael Bendis to basically be like a new Iron Man character. She finds or steals or recreates Iron Man armor for herself, and she's going to have a new character name, but she's going to be the essential replacement of Iron Man in one of the books for a little while. And she is a young African-American girl who's super intelligent, who's taking these things and making it her own. And just for the fact of who she is, that's including people into cosplaying who may not have had a character that they could feel like, oh, this represents me, and I get to go and dress up like them now. So already to see that happening is a big deal. And a few years ago, it was Spider-Gwen. The Batgirl of Burnside character got big. These are things that people were like, oh, they're just making this to appeal to cosplayers. Well, fucking A, so what? Because we're getting really cool cosplayers out of it. We're getting new characters out of it in some cases. And all it is an addition. It doesn't take anything away from what else there's been or what else exists there. We're getting new stuff for new people to come join a part of this. And I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And like you said, if it's just for cosplayers, we kind of have to think about how many of those people are out there that have wanted to cosplay at these conventions. Like I have wanted to cosplay at Dragon Con, but I mean, when I get down to it, it's like I'm barely able to schedule being able to get there. So, you know, developing a costume on top of that. And it's just so much work that, like, there are characters I dream of cosplaying. So there's a lot of folks like that are out there that would love to dream of cosplaying. So it doesn't even matter if you actually cosplay it. It's the point that you want to connect with some of these characters. You know, just I don't know, because you're
the only thing that keeps me from doing it is my inability to put forth the effort to make it happen. But there are people who are just putting every effort into doing it, doing amazing bits.
Absolutely.
And even the stuff that isn't as amazing. So what? You went and you got to cosplay a character. You got to have fun.
Put a t-shirt on. Just go.
Yeah. Just enjoy yourself, man.
I even look at I even look at the redesigns. Like you had the Batgirl of Burnside is a more street level look. You have Spider-Woman's finally redesigned costume, which is a more street level look. And then even Spider-Gwen, it's a little bit more street level. I don't even look at it more as it's easier for cosplayers, because there are cosplayers who will do the most insane fucking costume out there and kill it from the clothing line aspect. Like it's do the merchandising to where you get ThinkGeek gets the Marvel exclusive and the DC exclusive, to where you see the Batgirl of Burnside jacket, or these Spider-Woman jacket, and all this, and it looks really good, like you're wearing, like you just stole Barbara Gordon's jacket, except it's bigger or smaller because you are bigger or smaller than what she's supposed to be. Or that's what I like the most about these costumes, is it makes sense in the story, but then they also it also looks fucking cool.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it overjoyed me to get underoos, which I don't know, Gregor, this is probably before your time, but they were underwear matching sets of shirts.
My uncle rocked my cousin rocked underoos.
That sounds dangerous. Yeah, so they were underwear and a matching undershirt, but as a boy, you could wear that undershirt as your outer shirt. So the shirts were superhero symbols. So there was a Superman symbol, there was a Batman symbol, Flash, whatever. And then the girls, unfortunately, one, it wasn't really outerwear, and two, it wasn't usually the symbol, but it was a picture of the character on the shirt, and it didn't give them the ability to pretend they were that character. It made them just be an advertisement for that character, which is somewhat the same, but not exactly the same. And I really think that was, in many ways, it was my first cosplay other than Halloween. Growing up, when I was, in my 20s, and the first time I saw a Nightwing shirt that was the Nightwing symbol, I was just like ecstatic. This is amazing. Finally, I got one of these. And I think it was based off of the one from the cartoon series, but it was just so cool. What was even cooler was when my girlfriend wore it. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet.
Nice.
I think it's funny because this has always been pitched at boys, and it was never really something that should have just been pitched at boys. And it was just short-sightedness, and the amount comics have obviously gone through ups and downs of success over time, but I think that the highest points are when they started making comics that were not just aimed at dudes. When we saw the 90s boom happen, it was a lot of things like Vertigo. It was a lot of things like Strangers in Paradise, and the indie comic scene started happening, and we were seeing women come into shops. Like I've worked at 3 comic shops, and all 3 of them have either had a female owner or a female manager of some sort throughout the time. And that probably, I don't know that it necessarily colored my opinion on things, but it certainly made it more apparent to me that this is not a guys only thing. And as women would come into the store and I would talk with them, I would not only, you can put Death, the High Cost of Living in a woman's hands, and that they're going to like the book because the book is phenomenal. But it's not like every woman who came in liked the same kinds of stories. Some of them were very superhero oriented. Some of them liked the extreme line from Image Comics. Like I had a girl who came in week after week, and she was into the Rob Liefeld stuff. And that was so different from what you would expect at that point. But it's cool. It's okay. I mean, it's better than okay, because, hey, I'm selling Rob Liefeld stuff, which at that point in time was, popular enough that we should keep selling it. I just think that it's tough to see the backtracking, and worse, that it's the backtracking from either the really high ups in the company who just don't get it, who, often we point at them and say, you just don't get it. You're not the creatives. You're the...
Go play with your Barbies.
Right. Or worse, it's the fans. That really bugs the shit out of me when the fans are like, no, you're not a nerd. You don't like this stuff. You can't name the issue of X-Men where they first fought the Brood. Well, neither can most dudes. And it doesn't make them less of fans, and it shouldn't ever come down to that. There's no entrance quiz. There's no secret password or code to get in. We should all have decoder rings, but it's not for exclusivity. It's just because decoder rings are cool. I don't know. Early rant.
I wanted to add something about the costumes. You know, one of the, like, I've been seeing the next con that I go to where there's cosplaying. I was going to do a combination of the old Wonder Woman and the new, because when I was a little girl, Wonder Woman was my thing. And I actually have a photo of a costume that my mother, who was an artist, created for me, and I took it so seriously. I was like 7 years old or 6 years old, and I'm standing there with my hands on my hips. And I'll use that photo when we plug this show on Twitter, so I'll add that. But now I've kind of wanted to do both a new Wonder Woman and the older Wonder Woman. But you know what? I'm going to be hanging out, when I go to these cons, I'll be hanging out with my friends that I respect, and I don't want them to look at me like, oh, she's wearing a hooker outfit. You know, I mean, like, that's the bottom line. You know what I mean? Like, that's the bottom line with these costumes for women, is that, you know, oh, shit, I got to lose those last 20 pounds before I decide to wear that thing. You know, so that's another challenge for women with costumes, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother episode for you guys. But
no, yeah, we could do a whole
should
show on that.
Yeah, I completely agree that you should wear something you're comfortable in, but I also think that you should be allowed to be comfortable in whatever you feel like is your comfort zone. And so if you're like going out there and you haven't lost that 20 pounds and you're just rocking it, then rock it. Fucking do it. And yes, there's and
honestly, it's probably more than 20 pounds, but I'm just
I ain't throwing stones because I can't lift because I'm fat and tired. But I do agree. It's nice to see more practical costumes happening. At the same time, I think that, again, you don't have to discount one to have the other. There should be both. There should be representations of both. If there are characters, I think Power Girl, yes, it's silly that her costume has been about a boob window for so long, but it's been written in such a way by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner that it makes sense for the character. It works really well for that particular character. So I don't want to take that away from that character. At the same time, not every other female character that gets introduced should have that kind of costume, especially when we're talking about some of these characters are 15 years old. I don't feel comfortable having 15-year-old characters dressed up like they're in less than swimwear. That seems way out of line to me. But some characters can. You know, it's just, again, representation for everybody. The more that we have of various types and sizes and colors and everything else, the better it is for the industry, because everybody gets to find something it's their jam. You know, I'm
spot on
looking for my jam.
Yes. Exactly. My last thing about the story that we originally had is,
what story was that? I'm sorry.
It was something about Ben Affleck doing, like, they're calling the movie The Batman?
The Batman.
Or whatever. But
Ben Affleck in The Underoos.
But I look at this and I look at how their things are going, and where I enjoyed Man of Steel. I did enjoy watching the Ultimate Edition of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, and that's what infuriated me more about the movie, is I had to watch the Ultimate Edition to get a good movie out of it, in my opinion. And I do agree with Corey in that there are some things that I don't like. You know, oh, well, let's bring Jimmy Olsen in here just to kill him off. Fuck you guys. Or that Jesse Eisenberg, like, give me Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor. Like, I like that one from Batman, or not Batman, Superman Returns. I mean, if we gotta get stuck with Jesse Eisenberg, can we go back to that one? I mean, please. And all this. But again, my opinions. I know, Jackie, you liked Batman versus Superman. So, but I mean, it's not to say like you're wrong. It's just like, I don't like.
No, it's fine.
Jesse Eisenberg belongs on the Social Network, not as Lex Luthor.
No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
He plays a better, like, Zuckerberg villain.
He's better manic. He's definitely better manic as a character actor, and that's. But if you're gonna have a manic Lex Luthor, you know, my only issue was do something better with the character then. And I felt that there was so many things that just sort of happened because they needed to happen for the plot than what actually made sense on the screen. But I like Eisenberg. I like him in plenty of other things. I think he's a great character actor when he's playing type, and that was the type that he chose for this movie. And whether or not that's right is opinion or taste. But I think that the failings of the character weren't so much this is the Lex Luthor that we have. It's like what they had Lex Luthor do, or the circumstances that just sort of happened around him to make the plot happen. Those are the things I took issue with.
Yeah, or the fact that he stands at a building and yells over at Windsor.
Well, you know, Windsor is
filmed in Detroit, Joe.
Windsor knew what it did.
So the next story is,
oh my god, we're only at the second story.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we are only at the second story, folks.
I'll move faster, I'm sure.
Kelly Sue DeConnick is set to write Redliners TV series for NBC. So those of you in the comic book world will know Kelly Sue DeConnick for reinventing the character of Captain Marvel, who I have the toy right here because I'm a member of the Carol Corps, and she is so fucking awesome. Continuing her expansion into television, she's already got the deal with her husband, Matt Fraction, who's another great comic book writer, with their company, Milk-Fed Criminal Masterminds, which they expanded with Universal TV for another 2 years. But she is set to write the upcoming NBC's upcoming TV show Redliners, which is based on a series of short stories by Charlaine Harris, which also inspired True Blood. So I read this because one, Kelly Sue DeConnick, and then two, the description of the show. It's in the tone of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where Redliners will mix humor, romance, and espionage. Former spies living in suburbia who are reactivated when a failed hit on one of them leaves the assassin dead. This just sounds so cool. And she writes really funny when she wants to write funny.
Yeah, we'd be remiss to say that we're talking about her writing Captain Marvel, but obviously her creator-owned work, Pretty Deadly and Bitch Planet,
Pretty Deadly,
both huge comics, great stories, big hits, and big hits for her. I think that Marvel struggled to give the backing to her Captain Marvel run on the book, but they gave her 2 shots at like reinventing the series or starting the series over, which Marvel is like, hey, has it been 3 months? Let's do a new #1 on every book, not just her stuff. But when you saw like when she went and started doing her own creator-owned stuff over at Image, obviously it wasn't a fluke that she was where she was, and it's not just because of her husband, as some people might be prone to say, who are sexist assholes on the internet. I think that it's great that she's doing this. This sounds a little bit, yeah, I see Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It also kind of reminds me of The Americans on FX, which is certainly not a bad thing to model after.
Or Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and their demise. No, I'm because they were
in the sequel to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right. Mr. and Mrs. Pitt get a divorce.
I don't really know a whole lot about her, but this does definitely. But I'm vaguely familiar, but not enough to sound like I know anything on a podcast. But I'm excited about this. This sounds actually really cool. This sounds like something, again, the more that's out there for women and young women and to get into that kind of fantasy world mindset, I'm all for. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
No, yeah, exactly. And Kelly Sue DeConnick will also be an executive producer on there through Universal TV. And I mean, with her comic book stuff, it is, you know, with reading the description, I'm like, oh, this sounds like Matt Fraction's work on like Sex Criminals or another show, because Matt will go a little bit more humor with his stuff, where like Kelly Sue DeConnick, out of the 3 books we've mentioned, I think the funniest one is probably Captain Marvel. And it's not even an overtly funny, it's the fact that when they recreated her, because she was Ms. Marvel, they made her like almost like a Chuck Yeager telling pilot jokes sort of thing, as opposed to, or because she's out of tune with how things go now, sort of deal. And that's what really really hit home for me, and what I really enjoyed about the book and all that. But I was excited about this. I saw this, I'm like, oh sweet, she's doing more work. And then the next thing was like, okay, when are we getting Pretty Deadly as a TV series? When are we getting Sex Criminals? When are we getting, all these other things that the milk-fed criminal masterminds was set to promise that we were possibly going to be getting with them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've got their production company, and this is kind of the start of them building those relationships in Hollywood. Working on somebody else who's a little bit more established, their work with Charlene Harris is smart, because it's a good break-in, and I think her voice will add a lot to what the storyline is to differentiate it from the things that we just mentioned. It's okay to have a jumping-off point that's similar to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or Keeping Up with the Joneses, which is the new movie that's coming out right now with John Hamm and Gal Gadot. But
yeah,
she'll bring something different to it, and of course she's not going to be working alone, but it's good because it'll show what she's capable of doing, and then they'll say, all right, now what are you going to bring us?
No, exactly. And also, I had something, but I will end with the Emerald City executive producer Sean Cassidy will also be writing with her. That's the guy that you said she wasn't be doing this alone, but still, it's really cool to see. Our final news story is one that Jackie picked out. She's like, hey, I like this one. And I'm like, all right, cool. And this is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind TV series is in the works. Part of me thinks like, okay, this is going to have to be an anthology series. You don't know the plot of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I
Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey. Yeah, they sort of just forget each other. So
interesting. See, I remember I put in our notes, I'm a fan of this in a way, but I'm a fan of Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. I think it's by far one of my favorite movies. I watch it when I feel like I need to forget. Let me forget. I want to forget, those things. But but then I wrote later, oh, I think I'm a fan. I don't know how this would play out as a series. And I'm a little bit scared of that.
Well, that's the one thing I did think about. That I did think about that too when I first saw it. I'm like, all right, is there really anything to go off of here? But I do think there is, as if it's an anthology, like like Fargo,
if it's not about a couple. I mean, it's one thing, like doing Fargo, where the first one is similar to what you have in the movie and having that first storyline. But if they make it more about the company that does it and the stories that stem from that versus just a couple of people.
Totally agree.
And not retelling
kind of a series of stories of people that are, Yeah.
I mean, we've been watching Westworld, which Gregor did a review of last week. We've watched the last 2 episodes, and Westworld, when you've seen the original, is kind of it was a 2-hour movie or around that, and it was very simple and easy to get the point across. What they're doing with it to make it a series is you have to just do so much else with it, and you have to grow it out so far. And even when you're watching it, you're like, but it's sort of repeating the same day over and over again. Isn't this going to get a little old by the time we get to season 3? I don't think that it is, because it's very smartly plotted out, and it's done in a way that stretches things while building a greater story and not displacing the believability of it. I think that it's kind of amazing, and this is what I'd like to see from this. It's smart to take some of these ideas that aren't explored and say, okay, yeah, you recognize this because you've seen this movie or you've read the story somewhere else before, but we're not just giving you that same thing over again, and we're not just stretching it out to 10 episodes or something. We're going to do something different with it, and it's just a concept is the jumping off point.
Excellent. That's exactly where I was hoping this conversation was going to go. I completely agree.
And also, I will point out that hold on, here. Also, I'm going to point out that the production people behind this are doing a lot of stuff that that's why their bandwidth is so. Why am I? Oh, fuck you guys, dude. Thorman Auto HD. No, go to medium, you assholes. Sorry. I have to fight them sometimes. But the production company is Anonymous Content, who did True Detective.
Robot.
They do Mr. Robot's the big one. They've also got other stuff coming up, like Britt Marlin's series, the OA, or the OA, and Selena Gomez's 13 Reasons Why, as well as TNT's The Alienist. And it's so that's what, first off, I'm like, wait, Anonymous Content does more than just Mr. Robot? I didn't know that, first off, but I mean, that's something I could see being cool. Like, if you like these shows and you like the movie, then you're probably going to like the TV show coming out.
Completely agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for the news.